Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Speedrun Insider. My name is CJitsallGewd. Thank you for joining me this week and every week. We really appreciate it. Thank you for everyone for liking, downloading, sharing, subscribing, telling your friends, downloading for your dog. I know your dog can't physically download, it might not be interested in listening, but you can download for him, and that helps get the numbers up. So, you know what? Thank you for taking that pause for the cause. I want to remind everybody that Speed Docs-a-thon is going on August 27th through the 29th and September 3rd through the 6th. My schedule is not in front of me, but if you're listening to this, it is likely happening on one of those 2 weekends. It may be going on right now, but it's probably happening the weekend before. Check out the event. It's going to be on twitch.tv/speeddocs. You can check out the schedule. It'll be linked on speedrun.com/sdat. That's SDAT2021. That's speedrun.com/sdat2021. It'll be linked. It'll be a Hararo link. You can check out the schedule. I'm not asking you to donate. I'm not asking you to do anything that you would normally do. Just come and watch. It really helps. Really helps us grow. Really helps us get that algorithm push, which is exactly what we need. So thank you to everybody for all of the love after the last episode. Really appreciated it. You know, we are able to do this show because you guys make it possible. I am ready to introduce my guest for this week. Again, no NBA Jam style intros that people demanded. I figure, you know what? It's like half of the length of the time that the podcast has been up is how long we haven't been doing the intros. It feels that way anyway. I don't want to rush in to introducing my guest. Needless to say, he's very fast. Some might say supersonic in his speed runs. My guest for today is Argick. How you doing, bud? How you doing?
Hey, CG, I'm great. I like your pun intros there. I would say I'm supersonic. I talk really fast, is what people know me for. Have a lot of fun with speed runs and whatnot. But how are you?
I'm living the dream one day at a time. When I find out whose dream it is, I will let you know.
Oh, can it be mine? Can we share dreams? That'll be great.
Let's share the dream. I want to tell a quick anecdote about you, about a personal anecdote that I have. So, as I've mentioned on the show in the past, one of the things that happens is every so often I go to the audience and I say, hey, who do you want to see on the show? Like, who do you want me to talk to? Because I don't have a preference. I think I can have an interesting conversation with everyone, right? And so I did a round of suggestions a while ago. The first round of suggestions, and it's also a fun exercise for me because what I do is I just go to the people and I'm like, yo, podcast? So I went to the first suggestion. Everyone was like, you have to have Deo Man on the show, right? I'm like, okay, Deo Man, no problem. So I asked Deo Man, Deo Man, as he sometimes is known, and he's like, oh, hell yeah, let's do it. And I was like, awesome. He's like, let's do it right now. I'm like, not right now. I'm at work, but soon. He's like, all right, tonight? I'm like, not tonight, but soon. And he's like, okay. So that's a great episode, right? So I was like, okay, we can recreate this magic. And that first round, someone said, you need to have Argick on the show. And I'm like, I don't know who that is. To be honest, I don't know who that is. So I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, I'll check out his stream. And then I don't remember. I also work 9 to 5. You have the benefit of being Scottish. I hope I'm not giving away the store with that revelation. But if people couldn't know.
I can't believe it.
Yeah. Hey, listen, you know what? I was just as excited to have Scrooge McDuck on the show. No, I'm kidding. David Tennant. God, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, and so I was like, I don't know, Argick. And so we did a second round of suggestions. And it's like, you gotta have Argick on the show. And I think you had been a guest on the Overboost podcast, like right at that same time. I'm like, listen, I can't be jacking this dude's guests every week, right? They're gonna say that we're the Bobsey twins. It's like, can't do it. And then at some point, I had been following someone on Twitch, and I don't remember who it is off my head, but I know that they speedrun Sonic sometimes. And I had been through like the raid host train where I'd left the tab open and I had ended up on someone's stream. And I was watching someone who was really, really entertaining, and it was really, really fun. And I'm like, wow, this is a really fun stream. Who is this? But I had to go to work, so I don't remember. I couldn't catch the name. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to try and find out who that person is. And I tried to do it, but with raids and everything, you kind of get sent. There's no referral in the URL, so I was like, I can't find them. And then someone recommended, I gotta get Argick on the show. Gotta get Argick on the show. I'm like, okay. And then I found out it was you. So, you were the really fun streamer that I watched that one time in the morning before work that I spent 3 hours at work trying to find and couldn't find.
Hey, see, that's dedication. You spent 3 hours trying to find a streamer that you didn't know who they were. And it's like, as you say, you go through the referrals, you're like, I don't know how many raids I went through here before this happened. And then you're just like, no, I got to go to work. I've ran out of time. I got to go to work. And then you come back and you're just going, I can't be bothered trying to find out. I'll do it later.
Oh, the best part is I did it while I was at work too. So I'm handling IT tickets and I'm like on my phone, like, okay, where did I go from here? There's no good way to find out who people follow or who they raid. There's no list.
Nah, the only list for that is our own lists of auto hosts that we have. And it's like, this is who you're automatically hosting. It's like, great, this is fine. But then when you go 4 or 5 raids down, you're going, whose list am I on now? I don't know.
Yeah, suddenly we're playing the Kevin Bacon game. You ever heard about that?
I know Kevin Bacon. I've never heard the Kevin Bacon game before.
So it's this idea that you can play it's like 6 degrees of separation. Okay, well, Argick knows Amber Cyprin, and Amber Cyprin knows TGH, and TGH knows so-and-so, and so-and-so knows CJ, right?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of like going down the rabbit hole. But it's playing it with Kevin Bacon. So it's like Kevin Bacon was with what starred in, I don't remember, I can't think of a single Kevin Bacon movie. Anyway, it's like, oh, he was in this movie with so-and-so was in this movie, and then that person was in this movie with Kevin Bacon. It's like, okay, that's like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, I get you. It's like what happened on, I think it was a spreadsheet that was made a while back. I can't remember who made it, but it was like same idea, but we were linking speedruns together to people. And you were using the leaderboards for it. It's like, Argick runs Sonic Mania. This person also runs Sonic Mania. Then you would go to their profile to see which games they would run. And then it's like, you would see how many matches you made to a single person. It was like, how many people follows, like, imagine it was Author Blues. It's like, how many people are linked to Author Blues through the games that they speedrun? And it was like a weird spider web that you went down, and you're going, how did they even come up with this idea?
No, if there was a Kevin Bacon equivalent in the speedrun world, it probably has to be Author Blues, right?
I would say so, yeah.
I want to ask you, we don't usually do topical things, but we were talking about GDQ before the show started. You did some hosting for GDQ this time around, didn't you?
Yeah, it was great fun. I loved it. I got to host I got to host the Golden Sun run. Well, half the Golden Sun run. Golden Sun, the Lost Age. Big long run, about 6 hours. So it was myself and Edo Bean who got to split up the two shifts there, and it was a whole bunch of fun. And then a day later, they got me in to start with the Temples of Heaven and Earth, and then finishing with the Super Mario Bros. 2 run. And slap bang in the middle of those two games, of course, was the Sonic block. So it's like, got to host the Sonic block. We got to go fast, have good fun with it. And it was really enjoyable. Like, it's a lot of fun, and it's an honor to be able to be part of GDQ in some form, you know?
Absolutely. I've done like the hotfix scene. I've done hotfix a few times. It's not the same. No disrespect to the hotfix people that put on great shows. But it's not the same thing as like an SGDQ, right? It's like, oh man, doing commentary or being on the mic during an SGDQ with 60,000 people watching is like, whoa, that's a different kind of hit.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of pressure on that one. Like, you're sitting there going, I don't want to mess up. I don't want to make a mistake. And it's like, you've got the checklist of all these things. It's like, I got to do this, and that. Doesn't necessarily have to be in that order. Just do some of them. Make sure you don't mess up. You're just like, oh God, what do I do? But honestly, after the first couple of nerves disappear, basically, you just sit there and you get in with the flow, and it's good fun. But I totally understand. Like hotfix, it's great. I love the hotfix content as well. There's so many great shows. But they generally tend to hit around anywhere between the 2,000 and 6,000 viewer mark. You know, it's completely different from the mainline events, like the big events where it's not just speedrunners are coming together and the speedrun community coming together. It's these are the events that the gaming world realizes about. They take the focus on, oh, big speedrunning week, it's GDQ week, and everybody watches it. And then after that, people just kind of forget about speedrunning until the next GDQ comes around.
Yeah, like the masses, right? The people. The people.
The people, yeah.
I always find that, because I also organize events. I organize Speed Doxathon, as I mentioned in the intro. I always find it you get the best results when you have like a host synergy. So like putting you on during the Sonic block is like double power buff, right? Like that's like the best case scenario. And it's like, oh, Sonic and Sonic, right? That's like peanut butter and jelly.
Mm-hmm.
That your experience? Was it just like super free flowing and natural?
Yeah, well, as I said, it starts off a case of it's like, hey, I've got a little bit of nerves here when you're on your first break. Like when you first get introduced, you've got that 5-minute nerve period of just talking to the audience and trying not to flub any words or anything, which happens. Like it happens with everybody. But it is a case of I generally like I'll fully admit I asked if I could do the Sonic block. I'm like, hey, I made it as a host. This is great. Any chance I could host the Sonic games, depending on when they're scheduled? Because this was before the schedule got revealed. Like, we didn't know when runs were going to be. We didn't know any of that. This was all still being created. And the volunteers, or the head volunteers, asked us, it's like, hey, listen, give us a list of games from the runs that got accepted that you would potentially like to host. Like, give us a bit about you. Let us know which games you run, which games you like to watch, and we'll try and fit you with something that you would enjoy. Like, so they do try and get that synergy, which is really, really cool. And I'll be completely honest, they absolutely nailed it. They gave me two of the blocks that I asked for. It's like, hey, I love the Golden Sun, folks. We did it last year. Can we do it? Or sorry, we did it earlier in the year. We did it for AGDQ. Can we do it again for SGDQ? And they were just like, yup. And it's like, it was just awesome. And then Sonic block is like, hey, I'm not running Sonic this year because I did put in for it. Unfortunately, didn't get accepted. Hey, it happens. But it was like, I'm going to be watching it anyway. If I can host it, that would be all the better. And then it was a case of, I'm just going to reach out to all the runners. It's like, hey, can you let me know when's good times for donations, when you would like it? But because it was the Sonic block, I already knew who the runners were. I already knew how the runs were going to go, who the commentators were going to be, how they commentate. So it was really easy for us just to plan everything and go from there. Whereas if I did it with a run that I'm not necessarily as comfortable with, we'd have to wing it a little bit more.
Yeah. I've done a lot of hosting for other, like, smaller events, right? The magnitude of scale between the events that I've done in GDQ is a factor of, like, thousands, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things I think about is when I do commentary for my friends' runs, that's not the first time I've done it, right? The circle of people that is involved in these smaller events, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's recycled, but you end up doing kind of the same commentary for the same run, which means you get a lot of practice. And so one of the things that I've picked up on is I can tell when people are going in blind, right? And I can tell when people have like done that, like they've done this before, right? And those are always the best examples of like, oh, this is like the people that really, really practiced. You know, we were talking about Deo earlier. He had the reaction to his run was like he discovered gold, right? Like this is like they were already saying it was an all-time great GDQ run, and it was an awesome run, 100%. He practiced the shit out of it for months. As soon as he like submitted, he was all in, all dialed into that run. So, you know, I always appreciate when people put in a lot of effort. Not saying that it's like bad. Like, oh, people do a bad job. That's not what I'm saying. But you can tell. And then once you have that fluid motion, that's what they want. Like if you asked and they didn't do it, the only reason I can think of for not doing it would be like because you asked, right? Like I can't think of a good reason why. Oh, like this person wants to do the Sonic block. We're gonna have someone else do it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say anything about that. It depends on their procedures and really scheduling is the main thing, honestly. Like we could have maybe 2 people asked to do the block, and they decided we'll give one person one set of games that they wanted, we'll give the other person the other set of games that they wanted. It is just a case of we take it as it is, as and when. But I definitely agree with you. Daleman's spiral run there, oh, that was phenomenal. I loved that. But it wasn't the run itself I loved. It was Daleman's energy. Like
Yeah.
Daleman, as you say, he came in, he practiced the run. The run was phenomenal. It was a spiral run, PlayStation 1 classic. You've got a whole lot going for you on it. But when he came out and he just smashed it on commentary, like I really love doing solo commentary as well. So I see a lot of myself in Daleman and in a similar style where we're just going to hit the ground running and do as much as we can and build up the hype and just go with it. And it helps that you can see the passion from runners like that when they do that. Like they genuinely love what they're doing. They've spent all this time practicing and now they're coming out here. It's like, I wouldn't want to say like we're showboating, but we are showing you what we love. And I love the runs that are really high energy like that. And I had a couple of people message me being like, yo, did you watch the spiral run? You got to see the spiral run. Like, you two would be so amazing together on commentary. And it was like, no, we wouldn't. Because we're the same person. Like, we're the same type of person. We would talk over each other. We would try and do the same thing. Like, if we were doing something like a podcast or we were on a show together where you could clearly say, right, you're talking to Daleman, now you're talking to Arg, we could get away with doing it. But to try and do commentary together, like, we would have to sit and practice dual commentary if you wanted us to be together. So we aren't talking over each other and we still get the same kind of energy coming out. So, like, it was nice people saying, oh, that reminds me of Arg. It was great. But at the same time, I am aware of we're the same style. And I hope he continues. I hope he does more. And I hope GDQ gives him a massive boon from it because the run was fantastic. I agree with those that were saying top run of the event. Like, it was early on the event. It was great. And it's still being talked about.
It set the tone for the whole event. Like, the bar
definitely
got set instantly. And, they put it on, like, after, like, it was like the second or third run. Maybe it wasn't that early, but it was early. It was really early. And they put that on, and it's like, wow, this is like, everyone else is looking up now, right? That's the bar. And the thing about him that I've learned, and obviously I did a podcast, he's a blue streak that goes a mile a minute and never says the same word twice. I mean, he is so much energy. We talked about on the episode that we had that he has like a cult of personality. He's like an enigma. Everything about him is interesting, right? Like the no shirt and the like deadpan the camera, like right in the face camera, and like the skateboarding and the music and just like the way that he interacts with the audience is like so personal. It's like, yeah, he always puts himself out there, right? Like he's right in the camera, like physically, he always puts himself out there because he's right there. He's exposed in a way, right? Not to get too psychological with it, but I mean, he's really doing it he's really doing it. He's really doing it for the people, and it really shows. That kind of like effort comes through in those big moments like that. And I agree. You two would be like fire and fire. It would be amazing in the not the great kind of way, but it would be amazing to see.
Yeah, you'd need to find something that would suit it. Like, you would need to find something where you don't just want fire, you want a blaze and stick us both in the same room together. But it's like finding a situation like that. Hey, it may never happen, but I know personally, after that run, I went straight to his channel and I followed. I'd never heard of the guy before that run, and I'm just like, yep, I'm down for that. And then he jumped on after his run. He jumped on. He had people coming in saying how much they absolutely loved the run. I was one of them. He got praise for everywhere, and he was just chill. He was loving it, and it was amazing. And then he took a phone call from a personal friend who was watching the run as well, just congratulating him. It was amazing. Like, as you say, he puts his personality, wears his heart on his sleeve, and you can see it, and it's fantastic.
Absolutely. I want to pivot a little bit. GDQ, great. we talked a lot about GDQ. We talked about, the hosting and everything. I want to talk to you about something that I find interesting, and that's it's Sonic, but it's not particularly Sonic. It's I am so fascinated by people that stick true to like a game or like a series that goes through a shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, it's not super common that 2D runners cross over into 3D games, right? There's not a ton of people that run Super Mario Bros. 3 and Sunshine, right? It's like if there is, they're the unicorn. And I'm looking at like the games that you play, and the top two. One is Sonic Adventure, which is like a 3D game. The top runs on your SRC profile, I should say, most recent. That you've submitted times for, and then the other one is Sonic Mania, which is the 2D revitalization of Sonic. And I'm interested in like where do the skills transfer, right? And where is the biggest difficulty in the switch? Like how do you switch between those games? How are they the same? How are they different? And like how do you prepare differently? I'm interested in.
I mean, for me, it's just a case of if I like the games, I'm going to play them. Obviously, Mania for me was the big game that kind of started a whole bunch for me. Like, it started, that's where I got my big break, was when Mania came out, because I started playing Sonic games way back on stream in like 2016. That's when I decided, nope, I'm going to be a Sonic speedrunner. That's when I'm starting speedrunning. This is what I want to do. And I started with Sonic Adventure DX, and I'm like, this is a game I played. Like, I picked it because nostalgia. It's like, I love this game, because the number one thing to do with a speedrun is make sure you enjoy the game, because you're going to be playing it forever. Like, enjoy the game, go for it. And then Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, those 2D games, those runs had already effectively been quote-unquote completed. Like, no run is officially completed. There'll be somebody comes along and goes, here's a new glitch, and it breaks the game wide open. But those games had already been routed. There weren't any major differences, no major changes coming in. So I was a case of, yeah, I'm a runner. I'm learning the runs, but I'm learning them from existing runners. I'm learning them from the tutorials that are available. I'm learning them from all this stuff that's already been completed. Then Mania came out, and it's like, this is a 2D game similar to Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which is a game I will love till the end of time. And I get the chance to be at the forefront with the community, routing this game, finding strats, finding glitches, learning how the game controls and all that, and actually being part of this game's journey. And like it was amazing. Like, so at the time it was, hey, here's all your mashing abilities from Sonic Adventure DX, like, because you have to do spin dash chaining by mashing the buttons in a rhythm, and then you've got all the different tricks in that you learn. And there wasn't really any specific skills that transferred from Sonic Adventure DX into Mania, because they're two completely different games. Like, you're going from 3D into 2D, you're losing a complete axis here. But what does transfer over was the mentality. Like, I learned how I like to speedrun. I like to speedrun by being a mix of a speedrunner and an entertainer. I'm not going to grind the first 3 or 4 levels because I didn't get a perfect moment. Right? I'm not going to go, oh, I made a mistake. It cost me 3 seconds. I'm going to reset. I'm not going to do that. If people are watching me, they want to be entertained while they're being entertained by watching the speedrun. So I'm going to try and finish a run or two every stream so people know it's like, no, okay, I will get to see at least one run. Maybe we'll see some runs like 7 times, but we're going to get to see like certain levels 7 times, sorry. We'll get to see those 7 times, but we will actually see the end game at least twice. And I took that mentality from Sonic Adventure and just applied it to Mania. It's like, hey, it's a brand new game. Let's go through the game. Let's learn some stuff. Let's spend a few moments on one level. Let's go spend another couple of moments on another level. Let's put them together. There's part 1 of the run. Make part 2, part 3. Before you know it, you had the full run. You'd then wake up next morning. You'd have the other community members being like, yo, look what I discovered. This is really cool. You want to try it? And we just go back and forth with each other saying, right, here's a cool strat. It's new. Try and use it. Another person would come along, yeah, but why don't you try that strat in this level and see if it works? And we were basically pumping out these times left, right, and center. We were knocking them up. We were keeping them starting a way above like hour 20. Before we knew it, we were hour 15, hour 10, hour 5. Sub hour was getting there. Then we got 55-minute times. Then we were down at 53. And everybody else was doing other characters as well. It wasn't just Sonic. You had Tails, Knuckles. Then the Encore Mode DLC came out that added Mighty and Ray. And it just kept developing over time. And while that happened, we kept learning, like I kept learning different stuff within the speedrun. And I kept learning things about Twitch streaming and what viewers like to watch and people coming into my chat and being like, hey, I try and interact with chat when I can, like try and reply to people. Yeah, sometimes I reply to somebody and I make a mistake. It's like, well, that's on me. I shouldn't have looked at chat. But it's like just mixing those two kind of things together, the whole being the entertainer versus being a hardcore, dedicated, must get world record speedrunner. If I get world records, heck yeah. But at the end of the day, I just want to entertain while I'm doing it. And like that comes across regardless if my game is 3D or 2D.
Yeah, you said something that was you said something in the middle there that nailed exactly the thing that I was thinking about. Like you went from 3D to 2D and you lost a dimension, and that is the point I was trying to drive. I know so many people that go from 2D to 3D and they struggle because they've added a dimension. So it's interesting to see it in the reverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing translates, but you're also like you can only go in 4 directions. You can go up, down, left, or right. And in Sonic, the goal is to go as right as possible for, however long you can do that. You're trying to get over there.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Like you're trying to get to the end of the stage as quick as you possibly can, using whatever means necessary.
You talk to me about like the feeling that you have from like routing the game as a community, because when new Snap came out, like I was in the old Snap community, I was a mod, and then we like new Snap will never come out, it'll never happen. Like, why would they ever do that? If they were gonna do that, they would have done it on the Wii U because that was the perfect time to do that. They would have made it a mobile game. Like, why wouldn't they have done it already? And then they did it, and it was like they announced it, and it was like, what the hell? And then then it came out and they're like, oh, it's coming out on the Switch. It's really happening. And we got to like route the game as little as we could, right? There's like one major decision. And it doesn't matter in what order you do anything in. So it's literally like the one thing we got to decide. And like then the Pokemon that you take pictures of. And that was a really awesome process to do with like the whole community. Talk to me about like what that process is and how that felt for you.
Well, it was the case that we were all excited. And then unfortunately, Sega decided to release the console versions 2 weeks before the Steam version. So immediately there was this is going to suck. And it did a little bit because there was a few patch issues that happened. Like the console versions of the game, they all ended up with patch 1.0. They ended up with the first game. Then, of course, there were bugs because there always is bugs. There's bugs in video games. It happens. But we found a few speedrunning tricks, and then unfortunately they got fixed within the 2-week period. So the Steam version released, but it released at 1.1, and it never had 1.0. So immediately we had the problem of, it's like, well, we just discovered tricks on the console version that's now not possible on the PC version. Like, what are we going to do here? And there was a lot of back and forth discussion on like, okay, we're just going to have to separate the game by the versions to start with, and then we'll see what happens when things go through. And at that point, we all agreed it was fine. It's like, we'll just run the versions that we want to play. And then somebody came along and went, by the way, you do know there's a dev menu you can use in the PC version. Like, all you need to do is you need to change you need to add this one piece of text to the ini file, and you can access the dev menu that allows you to immediately go to any level, into any special stage, enable and disable. Basically, it was debug mode, but more powerful. And the problem that they had with that is now the PC version could do debug mode or dev menu mode, and the console versions couldn't. So now the console versions were at a disadvantage because they couldn't practice as efficiently as somebody on the PC could. So the PC version eventually won out in terms of popularity. We still have a few runners that run on consoles, but they generally tend to focus more on ILs than anything, rather than full game runs. So it was like, fair enough, that's fine. But once we got the the rule set basically drafted up. Thankfully for the Sonic game, it's pretty easy. It's you'll start the game the moment you hit this character, end the game the moment you lose control on the final hit, the final boss. We just got to have fun routing. As I said, we were sharing all the strats and that we had. One of them that still exists in the game today, and I'm quite proud of, that's basically Knuckles has a super bounce that they can do. Now, super bounces, they were discovered long ago, way back in Sonic 3 Knuckles. And it was nice to see the tech being carried over into a game like 20 years later almost. All right, not quite 20, but you get the idea. Big time pass, tech still worked. And we managed to route some levels here. I decided I was just going to mess around with Knuckles for a bit. And I found a super bounce that we could use, and it was really cool. But I'm rubbish at super bounces. I couldn't do them. And I'm like, I'm rubbish at these. So I found an alternative strat, because right next to the area where there's a super bounce, there's one of the big rings. And if you have all the emeralds, when you grab a big ring, you immediately gain 50 rings that allows you to turn into super. And because of the level geometry, you can turn into super, charge a spin dash, do a jump that allows you to reach the same area that the super bounce does. So it now gave you an alternative strategy to do. You can do the super bounce if you're good at them, or you can do this other strategy that's slightly faster, but you may not have muscle memory for it. And it was like, it's still in the game today, still in the run today. So I'm quite chuffed that it's there. But we just had that back and forward, you know? Like, we just had the back and forward of, here's all these different strats. It works. It's great. And then, unfortunately, Sonic Mania Plus happened. And in the Sonic Mania Plus update, there was a little bit of... Well, basically, there was a big patch. Big patch came out. It fixed a lot of the glitches that we used. And then at the time, the speedrunners had a rapport. Like, we had some of the devs in the Discord with us. And when Mania Plus came out, there was a little bit of argument. There was a lot of broken hearts. Basically, a lot of people felt like they got taken advantage of, that they were free Q&A, and that the game got fixed and they used the speedrunners' strats against them, basically. And so there was a lot of dissonance in the community around that. Personally, I took the stance of, hey, at the end of the day, it's their game. We knew patches could happen. Does it suck? Yeah, it really sucks. At the end of the day, we're either going to run the older version of the game, or we'll find new stuff in Mania Plus, and we'll run Mania Plus. And then after that, a couple of months later, what happened? We ran Mania Plus. And that was it. Most people now just run Mania Plus. It does suck that there are, like, we had to effectively create a second leaderboard. So now you have Sonic Mania on speedrun.com, and then you'll have Sonic Mania Old, which is the original version before Mania Plus came out. And there's times in there that will never be able to be beaten because the tech that was used in those runs no longer exists. You can't do them anymore. The only way you could do it is if you have an old copy of the game lying on a PlayStation 4 or a Switch or an Xbox that you've never updated. And it's just like, yeah, people don't have that. Like, most people have just went, I've updated the game, end of story, and you can't downgrade anymore without either homebrewing your machine or whatever. And it just became a big mess. At the end of the day, we just want to run our games. I'm just going to run the game, and I'm going to run on the latest patch, and that was it. But there was the big unfortunate bust up over, should the devs have patched that stuff? It's like, we'll never know. Like, was it the devs that said we had to patch it? Was it the publisher that said we had to patch it? Who knows? But it was an unfortunate time, but we moved on from it, and now we just get to have fun with running the game.
Something I've never thought about, because most of the speedruns that hold my curiosity or attention are older. They're not, being worked on anymore. I've never thought about the idea of like, oh, speedrunners are essentially like free Q&A testers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've never even thought of that as like I don't want to say possibility, but like I've never thought about that as a problem. So that's pretty interesting that happened.
Yeah, this, as I said, this was back in like 2017, 2018,
right.
When it was happening. Thankfully, something that's quite nice, and I've noticed a lot of this over the past year as well, is that devs are aware of the speedrunning community. Like they're a lot more aware that we exist, that we're not doing this thing. We're not doing these things to your games because we want to break them and we hate it. And it's the complete opposite. We do this because we love your games. Like speedrunners are people that are going to play your games for hours upon hours to try and save seconds in a speedrun, you know? Like people have 1,000 hours in these games so they can complete a game in an hour. It's like, yeah, but you've already played it for 1,000. It's like, well, yeah, I like it. I love it. And it's nice to see these developers coming out and being like, we're supporting these big speedrun events that our games are being run at. Even went as far to say, I saw a tweet recently on Twitter from a runner that does Rift Apart, where Insomniac came into the Discord server for them and went, hey, heads up, here's what we're doing. We're putting a patch out. It's going to fix X, Y, and Z. You've got the speed boost trick that we love. We love it too. But we're changing the way it works. We're not removing it, but we're changing how you activate it. And the fact that they did that, it blew my mind. It was fantastic. And then you had games like Celeste as well that came out, and they had a fairly good rapport with the devs as well in regards to, right, listen, here's some speed tech. We're not going to fix it. We're going to keep it in the game. It actually becomes a feature of the game now. And then you get stuff like Glyph that happened. And it's based on that speedrun strat. Like, it's a custom map that's based on the speedrun tech that exists in the game because the devs didn't remove it. And it was really cool. And as you say, it's not something that you normally think about until it actually happens to your community. And then you're like, oh, this kind of sucks, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it ended up working out in the end, ? But, still probably unsatisfying in the moment.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would say it's worked out in the end. Like, a lot of the runners, a few of them had a bit of a sour taste in their mouth. And I don't disagree with them on that. It did royally suck. But at the same time, it was a case of, hey, the devs are only one part of the machine. We don't know who they report to. We don't know if they have the final say on things like this. And we never will know. So it's like, let's not dwell on the negative. Let's not start insulting people or anything. Let's just move on. And we'll make the game as fast as we can. And we went from there. And that was it. It was behind us, thankfully.
I'm going to switch a little bit. Whee!
Nintendo or?
No, there you go. You know what's funny? During this whole interview, you said in the beginning, can we share dreams? You basically say the thing that I'm going to say before I say it. And you've done that consistently throughout the whole thing. So I'm like, damn, I don't have a thing to say now. But no, it's just like we're in sync. Our brains are one. I am going to talk about Sonic. Spoiler. I heard you play. Anyway, I remember I was like, what game can I speedrun? Like I was again started. I'm like, Sonic, maybe. I like Sonic. And then I was like, wait a minute. Think about this clearly. I never beat a Sonic game. I've never beaten the Sonic game on the Genesis. Like, I had the Genesis when I was a kid. My sister had a Sega Genesis. I never beat a single Sonic game. I was like, okay, how far did I get? Let me look at a speedrun and see. Okay, first game, I never left the first level. Okay, that's not a good start. Second game, I never left the second level, and then 3, I think I got to the end once. I was like, okay, not gonna work. And I never ended up speedrunning a Sonic game. I was like, I like Sonic Adventure 2, right? Because it's like skateboarding, extreme sports, Tony Hawk, rock and roll. But I'm like, oh no, people are doing it looks hard. I'm not gonna be able to do it. So then I was like, you know what? My favorite Sonic game is. And I'm ashamed. I'm not ashamed, but I don't go around telling people this. I'm confiding this in you. This is just between you and I and the people listening. I think my favorite Sonic game is Sonic Heroes.
That's not a bad game. Like, don't let. I know the Sonic community tend to be very polarizing at times. Heroes is not a bad game.
Heroes is kind of fun, right?
It is. It's good. I mean, I'm biased. I say that because I'm trying to learn it right now.
I beat it by accident, which is kind of probably why it's my favorite.
That's because you beat it. You've got fond memories of beating it.
I did beat it. I only beat it with Sonic. So, and it must have taken me a week. Back then, for those kids that don't have this experience. If you didn't want to lose your place, you had to leave the console running. So I would turn my TV off and go to school and come back and be like, all right, I'm going to try this again. You know? So, fun times. Tell me about, so you're learning Sonic Heroes. I guess this is a perfect segue. Talk to me about what that speedrun is like.
It's hard. Oh, yeah, trying is the word. No, it's a case of, I don't know if you know, but the whole shtick that I have right now is I'm trying to learn every single Sonic speedrun. Like, I've made it a goal to try and get a top 10 time in every mainline Sonic game. And I've been getting distracted by other things along the way, because of course you do. But I'm up to Sonic Heroes. It's like, right, no, I'm going to do Sonic Heroes. It's going to be the game I'm going to learn. I started trying to learn it 11 months ago. And then I got distracted. And it's like, okay, I'm going to come back to it this month. And I was nowhere near my PB that I had then. I was like, nope, I don't remember. I don't remember any of this. Right, we're starting fresh. We're going fresh. Away we go. We're starting from there. And then turns out starting fresh was like, okay, it was a good idea. And then my second run was like, I'm back down to where I originally was 11 months ago. It's like, okay, turns out I didn't forget what it was. I was just rusty. So I have retained some of that knowledge, which is cool. But the game itself is very different because of the team mechanics, because of the level geometry, because of how the physics work or don't work half the time. Thanks, game. And it's interesting trying to fight with the game's quirks. Specifically, one of the quirks that I have is when you swap characters, like obviously Sonic's the fast character, Knuckles is the powerful character, Tails is the flight character, and they all have their different formations. You want to be in Sonic as much as you can because Sonic is the fastest character. That gives you your speed. Then what you want to do is sometimes you want to switch to Tails because Tails allows you to fly and it allows you to gain a lot of distance. One of the game's quirks is if you swap from Sonic directly into Tails, you go from your characters running beside each other or running behind each other to stacking in a vertical tower with Tails at the top, Sonic in the middle, Knuckles at the bottom. Because of that, there is a chance every time you switch that you will switch to Tails and you will lose all horizontal momentum. You do a little hop in the air and you're stopped. And you're like, this sucks. And I have the unfortunate bad muscle memory right now where from casually playing the game where I'll always try and switch directly to Tails. It's like, don't switch directly to Tails, switch to Knuckles, then switch to Tails. Because Knuckles, for some reason, prevents that from happening. So instead of going Sonic into Tails, you go Sonic, Knuckles, Tails. It's one extra button press, but it's the other button, and my thumb always goes the wrong way. And I'm like, stop going the wrong way! And then before I know it, I've hit the button, and I've stopped. It's like, god dang it. But the game itself is a lot of fun. It's just like learning any other game. I got to take my time learning the individual levels, looking at whatever resources are available, interacting with the community, wherever they are. Most of them are all in Discord nowadays. Like most speedrun communities are in Discord. There's a Discord server somewhere. You've got the general Sonic Discord, but a few of the games in there also have their own dedicated server. So Heroes has its own dedicated server. I can jump in there. I can speak to the runners in there and be like, hey, I'm stuck. Can you help me? It's like, yep, sure, no problem. Here you go. And it's just going from there. It's just taking the time and trying to learn it, you know? And thanks to Sega, I have a deadline, which is I need to learn it before the 7th of September, because that's when Sonic Colors Ultimate comes out, and I am definitely playing that game.
Are you really super excited for the Colors Ultimate?
I am. Like, I'm somebody that had a Wii, so like I play Sonic Colors. Like, I know a little bit of the tricks, and like I wouldn't say I know a color speedrun because I don't. I know some of the tricks, but I'm excited because there's a lot of people that didn't have a Wii, so to them this is a brand new Sonic game. Now I know for a lot of people, I say, oh no, it's just a remaster, it's just an HD remake, it's not a new game. For a lot of people, it is a new game, and I hope that they'll enjoy it. They'll take the time, they'll go through it, they'll play it, they'll have fun with it. And who knows, maybe we'll get a new breed of speedrunner coming out, a new generation of speedrunners coming in from Sonic Colors Ultimate. Obviously, something that's going to be really cool is watching the Colors community themselves, because they're going to know all these different tricks and strats, and how many of them are going to translate over into the new version. Is it going to be a one-for-one copy, or are they going to have to do something different, you know? Because, like, it's a completely new game. It's made on completely different hardware. It's made in a completely different engine, as far as I'm aware. So we'll have to see how that's gonna. Because I believe, I could be wrong on this, But I believe the Wii version of Colors was made in Havoc. And I would imagine, especially since it's coming out in Epic, that the new game is made in Unreal. So we'll have to see.
That's a good point. In general, there are two kind of camps. It's a slippery slope. I'll be the first one to say that this is a slippery slope. I like the Switch because I didn't have a Wii U or a Wii.
Mm-hmm.
We had a Wii in the way that we had Wii Sports. We didn't use it for anything else, right? Like my mom got a Wii and she's like, Wii Sports, and we played the shit out of tennis and bowling and whatever. But then we didn't play anything else on it, right? I went to a friend's house. I played Brawl once. I played Mario Kart Wii once. Right? I didn't have a Wii U. In fact, the job that one of my first jobs, they had a Wii U in the break room, and we would play Smash for the Wii U in there.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the Switch because it's all new, right? It's all new stuff. But these games were all on the Wii U, right? So it's like, oh, the Wii U didn't sell, so if we just put these games on the Switch, that's as good as making new games. That's a slippery slope that I don't like. But I agree with your sentiment. It's like, well, people didn't play Colors the first time, and now we have a console that people are buying and actually buying games for. Not to say that the Wii is the second most popular selling console in the world ever, next to the PS2, which I think they still make FIFA for in Brazil.
Wow.
If they don't do it now, they only stopped recently. But I just think about it, and I'm like, yeah, this is the move. People didn't buy Colors the first time; they'll buy it the second time. That makes sense in my advertising marketing brain, even if it kind of sucks, But not the game sucks; it just sucks that you don't get that new game experience. But I'm excited for it. I'm gonna buy it. I'm interested in what you have to say about this. My biggest pet peeve right now is that games come out and they're utter dog shit. I'll say rubbish. They're rubbish. They're awful. They come out, they're unfinished, they don't work. Cyberpunk, every AAA game comes out comically broken, not even a finished title. The last AAA game that came out and I played that had no problems, I swear it was Red Dead 2. 3 years ago or 2 years ago, whenever that game came out. But Nintendo games always come out and they work. They have bugs, they have glitches. You said it yourself. Every game's going to have bugs. Every game's going to have glitches. That's how video games are made. But they work. You can buy the game and it works. Shitball indie games, you buy them, they suck, but they work. And AAA games don't work anymore. So I always buy Nintendo games because I know that I'll buy it. I'm going to spend $60 on a game, and I'll actually be able to play it.
Yeah, I feel you on that. 100%. Cyberpunk, obviously, the big one where it got to the point where people were getting refunds for the dang thing because it just did not work as advertised. And I can't really say too much about AAA games because, honestly, I spend 99% of my time either speedrunning existing games or I'm playing indie games. I love indie games. They are fantastic. They are cheap games, in my opinion, too cheap, but that's a different subject. But as you say, you get generally a full game experience from them. Whereas a AAA game, especially if they are quote unquote live service games, you're getting half a game and then they add more in later on and then you finally get a finished game. Two games that I personally feel really suffered from this were Final Fantasy 15 and Kingdom Hearts 3. And the reason I say this, and I know a lot of people will probably disagree with me on this one, I feel like both those games ended up hindering each other's development. I feel like they should have did 15 first, have the entire team dedicated to 15, get it in the state that the Royal Edition was, because now you look at 15, you can buy the Royal Edition, you can buy all its DLC, and it's a pretty solid game. The game, when it initially released, the vanilla edition of the game, did not have half that stuff. And it sucked. I bought the game. I bought the Super Ultra Mega Deluxe Collector's Edition of it. Loved it to bits. But I will admit it was an unfinished game. And then it sucks that they got all the way through the DLCs. They announced 4 brand new DLCs and then only did one of them because they basically decided this game is costing us more money than it's worth. Let's move on. And then during that development, you had Kingdom Hearts 3 as well. Now, Kingdom Hearts 3, Final Fantasy 15 was the next numbered title. So it had this level of expectation. It had this level of hype. You could argue that that's on us for putting it up onto that pedestal. At the end of the day, it didn't meet it for some people. Kingdom Hearts 3, same problem. This is a game where people were waiting for Kingdom Hearts 3 for long enough. I know I was in high school when I initially played and finished Kingdom Hearts 2 and absolutely loved it. Could not wait for Kingdom Hearts 3. And then Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, and I feel like it had a troubled development as well, and it felt rather unfinished because it was competing for development time with Final Fantasy 15. And then it's like, you got the DLC that came out for Kingdom Hearts 3, and it fixed a lot of its problems, and it ended up being a pretty dang fun game. And then, as you say, Cyberpunk comes out, it's a broken mess, they're trying to fix it. You've got some other games that have came out that are still missing parts. You've got a few live service games, like you had Anthem came out, and Anthem just completely fell apart. Hey, we're a live service game, you've got maybe 7 hours of content. We promise we'll get you more, and more never came, to the point where Anthem was considered dead. Then EA came and went, we're thinking about it. And then they came back and went, no, Anthem's dead. And it's like, we're sorry, Anthem's dead. And it was a shame because I deliberately subscribed to EA Origin to try the game for 6 months. Try the game for a month for £6 and effectively finished it in that month. And I didn't even go hardcore on it. It's just, there was no content for some reason. And then obviously you got all the reports, all the documentaries that came out that gave you an insight into the development of Anthem and how it had this troubled development cycle, things like that. There was crunch, people left, people came back. And you just look at it and you go, AAA games sounds like absolute murder to work into. And then on the flip side, you get good news, which was the release of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and the devs came out and said, we didn't crunch. It was planned properly. We had everything done when we needed to. And it sounds like it was a fantastic development cycle. And I really hope AAA games get into the way Insomniac are making games like with Ratchet & Clank, rather than trying to just pump out the same thing and do it as quickly as you can, charge you £60 for it and stick surprise mechanics in it, you know? Like, stop trying to make games get as much money out of people as you can and start making fun games again.
Yeah, I 100% agree. The example that comes to my mind for me was Destiny. When the original Destiny came out, I was super excited because I loved Bungie. I think everyone was excited. And they had a beta. They had the beta, and the beta had the Earth, and it had the Moon. And the Earth had 4 missions, and the Moon had like 2. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's for everyone that doesn't know. But so you're like, oh, it's a beta. The Earth is obviously going to have more than 4 missions, right? Obviously, the Moon is going to have more. It's the Moon, right? Looking at the map, it's like there's going to be all these planets. And then the game comes out, and the Earth had 4 missions, and the Moon had 4 missions, and there was 2 other planets. And I beat that whole game in a week. And I, like you said, I wasn't grinding. I'm like, now what do I do? Grind? I have to grind the dailies and the weeklies and multiplayer to level up? And that's like, okay, but the level up system is not the end of the system. There's another system which is bullshit, which is based on drops, and that's your light level, and it's like, oh god, right? So then I put the game down for 2 years. I didn't play it for 2 years. Bought the complete edition with all the DLC, and had the 2 years DLC and the new DLC in it. And that was a complete game. And it was a lot of fun. And I played the shit out of it. There are 3 character slots you can have for every character. I maxed out every character. Right? So, like, it wasn't a finished game. There was nothing to do. You beat the game in a week, and then you had to wait for the rest of the game to show up. The thing that kind of I think about, and you said this, and this is a specific point I want to mention. You said it couldn't live up to the hype. And the biggest example that I can think of right now for things that can't live up to the hype is the Black Widow movie. The Black Widow movie got announced after Endgame, like a month after Endgame. And it's Scarlett Johansson, and it's her real goodbye to the universe, right? To all the fans and everything. It's her goodbye, and it's her chance to get a send off in a standalone movie and introduce some other characters, right? Like, oh, she has a sister, and she has a makeshift dad, and like they have other characters. And it's like, oh, we're growing the universe in reverse, right? We're doing it in a prequel. But then COVID happens, and that movie doesn't come out for 2 years. Right? Like it was supposed to come out like in like the October after Endgame, and then it didn't. Then it didn't come out in 2020. Now it came out last week. I believe it came out late, like over the 4th of July or the week before. Or maybe this week actually. I think it was
this week.
Yeah, it came out this week. And there's no way that movie can live up to any expectations. People have had nothing but time to think about it. They've had 2 years to think about what this movie could have been, right? There's no way. Like, if you announce something 2 years in advance, unless everyone's going to get a complimentary, like, orgasm with their purchase, there's no way you could live up to the hype, right? That's why in advertising, you don't announce something until you can do something about it, right? If you can help it. Sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes there's external pressure. You have to announce that you're working on this game to meet the satisfaction of somebody else, or you have to meet someone else's expectations for what you're doing, right? Like, oh, well, I serve a different master, right? I have to announce this new truck. Hyundai announced a truck, right? Hyundai, the car company, which makes the cheapest sedans on the planet, they announced a truck. It looks ridiculous, but they announced it. Everyone comes into the store that I work at, and it's like, yo, you got the Veracruz? You got that Hyundai Veracruz? It's like, we don't have the Hyundai Veracruz. They haven't been built yet. And so it's like, okay, now everyone's getting their mouth all watered up for some hash, and they're not going to get any because they haven't built them yet.
Because it's not there. Yeah, no, I feel you on that. Like you were saying with Destiny, big Destiny player as well. Played through all of 1. Played through the majority of 2. But I will admit, 6 months ago, I stopped because the gameplay loop was the same, and I got bored of it. And as you say, can't be bothered waiting for the rest of the story. There are really good content creators out there who do lore that I can go watch their videos, and that's basically how I get my Destiny fix now. I feel like with the Black Widow movie, I understand where you're coming from on that one. I will say, personally, I didn't think about it because the only thing that I was thinking about at the time is, God, I can't wait to go and see a film again.
Me too. You know? I haven't seen it yet, but I'm so excited to go.
Yeah, like that's my problem with films and that now. It's like, yeah, this was meant to be out like 2 years ago. In a normal circumstance, you'd be like, there's no way you're living up to the hype. I don't care that you're a Marvel movie. I don't care that you're MCU or a continuation from the Avengers storyline. 2 years, nah, you're going to crash and burn. It's going to suck. But because it was COVID, though, because of everything that's happened, people just want to go see a film. And the fact that Black Widow is now is like, yeah, we want to go see Black Widow. We want to see this film. And I feel like that's balancing it out. Like, our expectations are not the expectations of, I want to go and see a great film. It's, I just want to go see a film. You know, yeah. It's like, I just want to go out. I want to go hang with friends. I want to go do what we did beforehand. Now, obviously, depending on where you are in the world, depending on where this airs, you may still have restrictions and whatnot. Please follow them if you can. I know by the time this gets aired, I will be double vaccinated, so I'm happy about that. But I'll probably still be at home because we'll have to wait and see what happens. But know that I cannot wait to watch that film. That is going to be a good film if I haven't already seen it.
I am looking forward to seeing the movie. Like you said,
yep.
I just want to go. So New York opened up a couple months ago. I live in New York. And they opened up a couple months ago, and then they were like, but the movie theater had been open the whole time. And I'm like, I am not going before I get my jab. All right, I'm getting this jab, this double vax, before I go see a movie. Because you're just in a room with recycled air, for 2
Mhm.
hours, 3 hours, however long it is. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go as soon as there's a movie. Now that I got my jab, as soon as there's a movie that I want to see, and then it became as soon as there's a movie that I could see myself seeing, and then it became any movie that could hold my interest at all. And we've been so busy recently, working on STAT and like speed dog videos because we have a lot of stuff going on. I haven't been able to go, but I'm like planning a day where I'm gonna go see Fast 9 because I don't give a shit what anyone says. Don't at me, people. You listeners, I don't care. I'm looking you dead in the eye right now through the power of waveform, and I'm telling you, there is nothing in my life that I want more than to see Dom Toretto fight John Cena. That's like y'all were drooling over King Kong and Godzilla. I want to see this man be like, I'm gonna beat this man with the power of family. Right? It's gonna be awful and hokey and dumb. And we're gonna have like, crying people and like fast cars that fly and jet mode. Whatever, it's fun. When did people stop liking fun? It's ridiculous. Oh, it's absurd. But they're steering into it now. And I am gonna go see that movie. And then I'm gonna go see Black Widow and be making fun of the Taskmaster. Who is he's a lame villain in the comics anyway. Any film adaptation is gonna be fun because it's gonna be kind of hokey. If they make a serious Taskmaster, it'll be like when they made a serious G.I. Joe movie. Did you ever see the G.I. Joe movie?
I did not, and I don't know if I want to.
Oh my god. Channing Tatum in a G.I. Joe movie. It was so bad that they rebooted it. They murdered all of them in the beginning scene of the second movie, and they basically were like, the only one that lived was The Rock.
Oh, wow.
They were like, all right, The Rock is now in the movie, and Rock's the only one left. Rock revived the franchise. And the second one was actually fun. The first one was so bad.
Hey, I'm right with you there as well in Fast 9 and Fast 10 and 10 too when it comes out. Because nothing is stronger than the power of family.
You gotta have family.
Those are my guilty pleasure films. I will happily sit and watch any of the Fast and Furious films because to me, as you say, they're just ridiculous. I could take my brain, stick it on the table and not care and just have a good time.
It's guns and hot people, right? Men and women alike. There's something for everyone. And, it's just fun. It's just fun. Like, people hold up James Bond on a pedestal. And I like James Bond. And I like Sean Connery, right? And Roger Moore. I think that's right. And I love those two. But Sean Connery beats up a guy in a hotel, tosses him in a bathtub, and puts a toaster in a bathtub. Then deadpans the camera and goes, "Shocker." That's the kind of humor you get with Sean Connery. It's like 50 years later, we're doing the same shit. It's like it's just fun. We're just having fun. It's just it sells tickets. It puts the asses in the seats. And I'm always gonna watch them fly a car. Like there was the A.T. movie. They had a trailer where they flew a tank by shooting the gun, right? The big tank gun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna watch that every time. They follow a tank. Of course, then it's like the physics video on YouTube. No, you really couldn't do that. I'm like, y'all out here thought you could do that? Now who's got the problem?
I know, right? It's like, here's all these big serious videos about how you can't do this. This would not work. We know it's a film. Enjoy it. Like, please.
Also, they landed a tank in the lake, and then they would have died of CO2. Right, go ahead. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, I appreciate the action attempt that you did for Sean Connery, sir. It was very, very good. You see, Act 2 can try my Sean Connery. It's not very good, but I've got the accent to back me up.
You got the like the Sean Connery eating his own like facial hair thing going
Pretty
on.
much, yeah. No, I love the James Bond films. I haven't watched the most recent two, but it's like I was a Brosnan kid growing up. Like, so it was Pierce Brosnan were the Bond films I got to see. It's like GoldenEye, Die Another Day. Like, I'm down for watching them. They're just like meant to be super serious British agent 007. It's like he did a funny thing that could never happen in real life, but it was cool, and I want to see it again. An Odd Job has a hat with blades in it, and it's cool. You know, like that's just the stuff. You just have fun with it, you know? You don't need to. If I wanted to go and watch a super serious film, I'd just turn on the Discovery Channel and watch a documentary or something, you know?
Yeah, like, you know, if I want to watch a real film about British Special Forces, I don't have any pretense that that's not Daniel Craig, right? Like, I don't think that someone that looks like Daniel Craig is like actually the Queen's secret, like, ace in the hole. So you were doing your Sean Connery. I dated a girl. Did you ever see? It was years ago. It was like a candy commercial. It might have been Starburst, where it's like that's our it's Skittles. That's our contradiction, like Scotch Korean, right? And it was like, oh, it's like a Korean dude playing the bagpipes or whatever. I dated a girl who was Hawaiian and Scottish, and so she had red hair, and she didn't have a Scottish accent, but her dad did. And she would like fall in and out of it sometimes. It was really like she was sweet, and I just, you know, been thinking about her. But when she would get angry, she sounded like a lady trying to do Sean Connery. And you know, it was also like, you know, bad because she never went to Scotland or anything. She just lived in Hawaii her whole life. And your impersonation of Sean Connery reminded me of this girl I dated in college.
Wow. I mean, it is true. When Scottish people generally tend to get angry, the accent becomes thicker. Even if you don't really have the accent, it tries to come out.
You get like the cat hairball. Ah! You know?
Yeah, a little bit of that, and you get deeper as well as you try and get it out. You're like, angry, I'm getting loud. Come on! And you're like, what are you talking about? What are you doing? Just shut up, please. Like, and just something your mates will look at you, just be like, no, just gonna no, and then that's it.
In the interest of being fair, we'll talk about my New York accent, which I don't think I have one until I go somewhere else, and they're like, "Oh, you want a cup of coffee?" I'm like, yeah. It's like, "Oh, put that coffee in a drawer." I'm like, "Yeah, I got it." Yeah. We were actually in, I was at SGDQ. No, it was AGDQ, the one that was in Florida, AGDQ 2020, which is the last one that we had before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember me and my friends, there was I think it was a Fridays. It was a TGI Fridays across the street. And we're walking, and this Honda Pilot or this Honda minivan is barreling down on us. And we're like in the crosswalk, right? We had the right of way. And the van gets to the bumper all the way in the crosswalk. I was like, "Yeah, I'm walking in. What are you doing? You putz?" And I like throwing my hands in the air, and then my friends are laughing because they're like, "Oh, haha, you did the New York thing. You did the Midnight Cowboy. I'm walking in. But I'm like, listen, that person needs to know. And then she flipped me off, and she went on her way. You know, this minivan that was in Disney World with her Ohio plates. But I'm just saying, you know, like, bafunga. Like, when I get angry, it's just like, what are you doing? And I'm also Italian, just like, so there we go. We exchanged angry accents with each other.
No, but you're right though. Like, I feel the same about my accent. I don't hear Scottish accent. So what you're all hearing now, I'm not hearing that in my mind. I'm like, I've got no idea what I actually sound like. And it's nice when people tell me, it's like, "Oh, you're Scottish, you've got a really cool accent." I'm going, wish I could hear it, because I don't. I just hear a whiny little larg in my head being like, this is what I'm saying. I've got no idea what I sound like properly, but there you go. But that's just accents for you, isn't it? It's like you don't really hear it until you go elsewhere. And it's like when I listen to myself back, be it on a podcast or if I've done a recording or something, and I hear myself, it's like, no, I do feel like I have a bit of a Scottish accent. But it's like when you take yourself away, you go elsewhere. You're not surrounded by like what you typically hear. That's when you start to realize, okay, no, you do have the accent. You've just got to not. Basically, I think you get not complacent. You get comfortable around people, and you just don't hear it anymore.
Right. I know that for me, it was like someone I knew in college was a linguist. It was a linguist major, and she said, if you're ever like not sure, like how to like if someone has an accent or whatever, just listen to how they pronounce vowels, right? And I'm like, okay, I can get behind that. And then you could like pick it out. So like, I'm not like some like accent master or anything, but I just listen for the vowel sounds. And you know, it is interesting. You don't hear it, you know, and or it's like I don't really have one, and then it's like when I'm doing the radio voice, I like to think it's something benign. It's English Midwest, coming to you live, KBBL 94.9 The Blend. Right? It's just like super generic white dude, you know, middle America accent, right? But it's like if I go back and listen to it, or someone else is like, "Oh no, New York written all over the place." I was on vacation one time, and we were at this like barbecue joint, and they were like, "Oh, you didn't order like I was supposed to say I wanted a Coke." I'm like, "I wanted a Diet Coke." I'm like, "No, everything's a Coke. All the soda is called Coke." It's like, what? So it's like, what kind of Coke do you want? A Sprite? It's like, that didn't make any sense to me. But like, then you get into like the regional differences, right? Just crazy how like so different it is in such a small geographic area. I mean, I guess the States is big, but you know, it feels.
Yeah, you're pretty big. Yeah, you're pretty big. I will say.
Well, I mean, there's only so much real estate on the planet, you know. You're right. We're pretty big.
But no, I get where you're coming from. Like you've got all the different dialects and that, and the different ways that people speak. Like not as drastic as what you have with the different states and that. But for example, up in Scotland, you've got Glasgow and Edinburgh. Glasgow is really like you've got the thick accent. You put it on your ken, you're in Glasgow. It's like, all right, mate, how you doing? Well done, go on. And then you go to Edinburgh, and Edinburgh's considered more posh, a little bit more proper. You build it up. You still hear a little bit of Scottish in there, but it's like they feel as if they're more upper class, is what people keep saying. And I'm going, I'm slap bang in the middle of these two. What the heck am I then? And it's like, it's just the thing that's came for me, which is quite nice, I guess, is that I'm able to articulate what I'm saying. Even though I have the accent and I can speak very, very fast, especially when doing commentary, things like that, I'm articulating my words enough that people understand me without having to struggle to go, what did he say? Because I've had that number of times, like when I went away on holiday at some point, you'll go up to a store, you'll order some food in that, and they'll go, can you repeat that bit slower so I can hear you? It's like, yep, no worries, and you go on your way, because I get used to that. It's like, nope, I spoke too fast, they don't know what I'm saying, it's fine. And then it's just like, it's on the flip side when I hear somebody else, it's like, I didn't quite catch what you said there. Can you repeat it just so I can make sure I have what I thought you said was correct, you know?
What I learned, so I for years, I'm like, man, I have tried to learn other languages, and I sound like I'm like hunting and pecking on a keyboard. Like I'm doing one key at a time. And I didn't understand it for years until recently. I got a video recommended to me, and it was a woman who her native language was like it was like an Eastern Bloc country, like a former USSR state, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was making a video about how to sound like a native English speaker, and I was interested in this because I'm like, oh, I wonder like how good does she sound, right? Like, is this like a good advice video or a bad advice video? And it was really good. And the thing that she said, which popped a lot of like light bulbs off in my head, she said that people don't really speak faster. They just blend the words together. So it's not, I don't want to, it's, I don't wanna. And that sounds like you're saying it faster, but you're really just kind of being lazy. And when I figured that out, and I was like, okay, we're just blending the words together. We're not talking faster. I got so much better at not only like speaking whenever I'm forced to speak other languages, which God, I hope no one ever needs me to do that because it's awful. But and I feel bad for everyone involved, including myself, especially myself. But listening to other languages too. And obviously I do the podcast, right? If I just interviewed people that were like from the States that spoke in clear American English dialects, it'd be the most boring show on the planet. I've interviewed a lot of people inside and outside the show. And the one thing that I've learned is if I don't know what you said, it's usually a reception error on my part. If I stop and think about it, I usually get it, right? Like, you go very fast. You and Deo Man would be fire and fire. But I think that I'm imagining this like the show, which now we have to do, right? We have to advertise it, we have to promote it, we have to do it in 2 years. But I'm imagining this program where I have the two of you on, and like he is coming through, even though you're talking over each other, and people are like, "What the hell is the other guy saying?"
Yeah, pretty much.
So it's kind of incredible how we have how language works. I do want to wrap up, but I wanted to see if there was anything you wanted to mention before we start to kind of wind down.
It's just a case of thanks for reaching out and thank you for having me. It was great when you turned around and told us. It's like, hey, I'm doing a podcast. You've been recommended. Would you like to come on? It's like, heck yeah, I'm down. Let's go for it. Podcasts are good fun, you know. We get to sit, we get to chat, we get to have a good time. And I hope your listeners have a great time. And, well, whatever they're doing now, I hope they enjoy it, you know?
Absolutely. If you liked the conversation that we had today, you can you can find my guests. You can go check them out on speedrun.com/user/Argick. That's Argick. Check out all their runs. You can follow them on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Argick, spelled the same way, Argick. Twitter. That's twitter.com/JK. Argick, Argick. And YouTube. YouTube sometimes doesn't work with the vanity URLs. So go to YouTube and type in Argick, Argick. I was able to find him really easily. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. Thank you to everyone who's been listening each and every week. Continue to do the things that you do. Never ask you to do anything different. Just listen to the show, download the show, tell your friends. And a reminder that SStat 2021, the schedule will be up on the SRC page. That's speedrun.com/SStat, SDAT 2021. That's speedrun.com/SStat 2021. It'll be live on twitch.tv/speeddocs. And if you want to check out the schedule for that event, the link is live on the Speedrun page. It'll be a Hararo link linked on the page. Thank you to everybody for supporting the show. Tune in next week. We have another great guest for you. You're going to be excited. You're not going to want to miss it. So check that out, and everyone have a great rest of your day.